Welcome to the IWDR tutorials. We're going to give an overview of the client services functionality. The client basic section, which is what's open right now, is where you can add new clients. There's one record per client, and from there you can view and add information about the client in the sense of new applications, additional considerations on their health or other conditions that impact the placement of a dog, client activities, applications, just to view all the applications that the person has had with your organization, equipment, photographs and PDFs that are specific to the client area, progress reports, all relationships, and the important contacts for a client. The next section is the application. So what we'll do is go back over here to add a new client. First, we'll search to make sure Betty Boop is not in the database, and she is not in our private person for our organization. So we're going to enter her, Betty, B-O-O-P, and we'll put her in California. Sounds like a California name. And we can enter other information about this client, address, phone, email, etc. It's not required, but may be useful to you. It is required to enter birth date. So we'll make her have her birth date, and sex is required, as well as the program. So that's the kind of dog that she would like, or the program that you offer that she's going to want to have. You can update that over time if the person changes to a different type of program. The actual programs are created from this list, and that way you can customize them. If there's anything that's missing from this list that you need, then you would make a support ticket so we can add it to the main list, and then you can have it selected on your particular list for your organization. So there we go. We have facility dog mail there. And the rest of the information can be entered at your desire. It's not necessary in the sense of filling out a record. We can save the record. That automatically makes our new client, Betty, an inquiry potential client. So she doesn't have an application yet. Let's show you how we do that. Very minimal information is required. In fact, for this, all you have to do is say what stage her application is in. There's a whole lot of other information you can enter, and you save the record, and that's moved her now to be here in the client services edit application section. You can also find her back on the client basic. So there she is our first person, but yet she is in the list of people that are applying for a dog from you. The only action you really have to take here to move things forward to get her into training for a placement or schedule her would be to approve her application. Again, fill out more information if you'd like to, save your record, and now she's moved over to the managed team training. Back in the edit application, there were multiple things you could do. I'm going to use a different client to indicate that. So we have another one, George Bush. And let's just make an application for George. And we'll say that he needs an interview. We've already received his application and looked it over, and he's at the stage of needing that. So here he is over here in the edit application. So some of the things we can do in the client activities are, there's categories of these, so we can request more information. The person may attend candidate classes or partner classes. We can add more things to this if you need, or we could have an interview with a dog, etc. The additional considerations may be things that impact the placement of this person and a dog with a dog. And let's just say wobbly and uneven surfaces. You can add more items to this list by clicking on the Add New button if you'd like. So in this case, we are happy with these uneven surfaces, and we'll save the record. And you can add equipment, which wouldn't make sense at this point since he doesn't have a dog. Then you can have an interview with the dog. So if we do that, we can pick from the dogs that are in training and put the date in that we did the interview, put some comments, and that would save that record. It doesn't change the dog's status or anything. It's just taking the dog out of the facility, working with the person, and seeing how they do. Client photos, we can add photos just as you can in the rest of IWDR. These are specific to the client. They don't show up in the public area. There are no relationships currently. Well, actually, there might be. No, there's no relationships yet. And this would be to add client important contacts. And this would be potentially things like family members, and you would add the new record if the person's not in there. So let's say the wife of this person. So we'll say Barbara. And then Bush. And she's not here. So we would put her name in. And that allows you to put doctors, pretty much anybody you want to, organizations, universities, etc., any workplaces and such that you need to keep the address for. So we'll put them in Maine and save the record. And then we can say that the person is a family member. And then you could put notes and say more. You could put the date of birth. Perhaps you want to know there are young people in the family, etc. So then that would be more information about the applications. So we're going to move on where we moved our Betty Boop person over here to manage team training. This whole menu here allows you to indicate for a future date that this person, here's one John Doe, is scheduled tentatively for start training in June. We don't have a dog yet. He's waiting for a companion dog. You could go into John Doe and you could assign his instructor now if you'd like to. This could be a tentative instructor placement so people can plan ahead. If you choose to have classes, let's the January class, we would want to actually put in that we have a June class. So we'd say 2020, June, and we'd say the class start date. And once it's in there for everybody to have, meaning you'll see it whenever you go in for classes. So some people, some organizations have classes, some don't. This is not required. You just put in what makes sense for your organization. Actually, I need to put in 2020. Okay, so that would put the class in. That's what the tentative is, and that will help you to start loading your classes. We'll be providing some information views that you can see how many people are scheduled for each of the classes. So you can save the record. He's not confirmed yet. And that just helps you to see where things are, and also to go over here and search on by instructor or by class or by date or by whatever makes sense to your combinations of that. So Betty Boop, we could do the same thing for the manage the team training. Let's actually take her record a little further. And basically what we're looking to do is to match her with a dog. So I'm going to go over here first and show you that we have assigned dog, abort training, client activities, etc. But let me go ahead and give her an instructor, and this will be probably we'll use the same person, I guess, as we used before. And we'll say that we confirmed her and she's going to come in really soon. And what we can do if we know she's going to be in a class, by the way, is to either enter that or, so here's our January, this is 2010. So let's put her in the June class here. And so we could actually not put the date up here, and because it knows about this class start date, it will put it over here. It'll save it. So let's show you that. So let's go back in, and there's your start date for the class. Okay, so let's assign a dog. So we do add new. Again, it's the dogs that are in training, and we'll start training with the dog. Here we may find that sometimes you do start training with somebody before or after the class start date. So it's meant to be not a date in the future, so we don't give you that when you're actually starting training. So let's say that we're actually going to start her in December. It doesn't make much sense, my example, but you get the point. We'll start her on Christmas. And here we are. So Betty now is in team training. You can see instead of hasn't started yet, she's moved to team training, and we have her dog, etc. And we can either abort her training and say that she would like to, let's just show you what the information is here. If we abort her training, we put in an end date, and that would make her dog Alice go back into training. Right now, Alice's status has changed to being in class, but by aborting it, Alice will go back to training. If we say that we want to have her try another dog right now, soon, then she'll stay on this list. Otherwise, if she's aborted it, it will change her status with us. And also, we could decline to service her. But then let's actually say we're going to graduate her with the dog. And in the meantime, you could be doing client activities. These activities are ones that are appropriate for a dog that's in training. We can add more items for you. You just have to contact us. And then the location where that occurred is something you'd fill out. You could have different routes and such, and then say how they're doing on the routes. We could edit her application if some additional information shows up while we're working with her. We can assign her equipment. Your equipment list is created by the organization's list of what you want. So if you want to have a, let's see, what other kind of equipment, booties, let's say, we would enter them, and you only have to enter them once for your organization. They're now part of your list. And we'll say we provided them on today, and we will save the record. And it will automatically say what the booties were for Alice. The team will go to that in a moment, because once we do, it'll change the view. So I'll just tell you what else is here. The interview with a dog, we've already seen that, and the photos, the progress reports. You can view all relationships that this person has, which of course, once we place this dog, we will have that. And other important contacts. I think there is a, yes, partner team training relationship is existing at this point. So let's graduate the two of them. We'll add this relationship of a graduated. You might say they're doing very well. You can have some type of other information that you want to add here, a report or something else could be added. Let us know if you want to have attachments to these kinds of things. And now she's moved over to the active graduated teams. And we have 3 on our examples here. And the kinds of things you can do is to perhaps edit information about the aftercare region, other information that matters to the management of this client or your client information. You can see other details below. I'll go back to the list and show you a little bit more about them. So the client activities, we've seen that already. There are certifications and the ADI public access test. So the certifications are more general, not the, but if you are an ADI member and you want to fill out the access test, I'll show you that in a moment. So you would, again, create your test type. We've added these two for guiding eyes, but you can add some additional kinds of tests. So you might have some type of end of class, class end test, or 1 month follow-up probably makes more sense. Follow-up test. If you want to do something like that, you just fill it out. It's there for all of your lists from here on in for assessments. The location, again, can be something you add. I wouldn't put addresses specifically, but more general information, because you're going to see this list for every client. And then we have things like the handler and evaluator, etc. Some things are required, so you will have to put that in. If your instructor is not actually in there, you again enter them. Oops, sorry, that was the handler. Put the wrong person in there. So it's usually the handler is the person who graduated with the dog, but there are some cases where, such as with autistic support dogs, that may be different than that. So we left it so you could change it. And here's our instructor. And we would enter the outcome. So there's probational pass, and you could have follow-ups due, etc. So the ADI test is provided with the permission of the Assistance Dogs International for the ADI members. And right now we're just offering this to the ABC members. So the test date, type of test, and all that information. These values, the code is not there, but they will update and give you summaries at the end of the test. You can enter the outcome, and the test information is all here. There's some additional sections below that were provided by some of the other organizations that they do extra, but it's not part of the PAC test. You can retire the dog, return the dog, and do a little bit of dog edit, but that's pretty much the client side. There's also the facility aspect. So if you want to do facility dogs, where one facility can have multiple dogs, you'd want to use this location, and we have to see if we have any. So I'm just going to see if I have any facility that I want to put in. No, so let's just make a facility called test facility. So this would be let's say it's a social services organization, and this could be the, I don't know, the New York Center for Autism or something. And let's say, of course, they're in New York. And we could put in their address, etc. And that's the facility that we work with, let's say, and right now they are an applicant. They are wanting to get dogs, and they've requested a dog for their facility, and we are screening them at this point. And there's no dogs yet placed, and the date they're starting with us as a request is this date. So this is fairly simple. We can add more information if need be. And here we would place a dog. Once the dog is placed, then there's another tab, which would be active facility dogs, where you can manage very similar to what you saw in the other section. So that's an overview of the client services module.